Hello, I'm Liam Dan, host of the NZ Herald podcast Money Talks. We're back for our 5th season with an exciting range of guests. You can listen to Money Talks at nzherald.co.nz or on your favourite podcast app. New episodes every Saturday.
You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
Let's get you across the Tasman. Adam Peacock is our Australian correspondent every Saturday about this time. You can read him at codesports.com.au, as well as being a guest on the show. He's also a Manly Sea Eagles fan. Were you at the Manly Sea Eagles Melbourne Storm game last night, Adam?
I was, and thankfully for you today, I'm a little less sweary as well, because I was getting frustrated in that second half when we got two, I felt, perfectly legitimate tries ruled out, and I could see the Storm doing what the Storm have done over many years and conjuring up something towards the back end of the contest. But no, Manly played really well, my boys, and they had a horrible couple of weeks defensively, but last night they were brutal. And one hit in particular, which I was 50 metres away, but I still nearly felt absolutely everything of it, was Justin Olam copping a double-edged hit from Josh Alloway and Hamoli Olakawatu. It was just an extraordinary... It was like a car crash. It was... I don't know how Justin Olam is walking around still. It was one of the biggest hits I've ever seen live, but no, big win for Manly.
Absolutely. And the Storm, I mean, the Storm are the Storm, and we know how consistent they've been over many years. Are there some cracks appearing in the Melbourne Storm?
I would have said yes, but the last 2 weeks they just got back to basics, and they played no nonsense, grind teams down, and then sprinkled it with a little bit of magic from Cameron Munster and co at the end of it. Last night, Craig Bellamy said after the game he was just almost mortified about how dumb they played, and Christian Welsh, the captain, said it as well. He just said, we just played stupid. So, yeah, they couldn't get out of their own area. They dropped the ball too much, playing against 12 men when Manly went down to 12 because of a sin bin at one stage. They just didn't play smart footy, and, they got undone by a more enthusiastic Manly team.
At the moment, the AFL is in full swing as well on your side of the Tasman, and they're all in South Australia at the moment, I think, for Gather Round. What's this all about?
Yeah, so this is a concept that's, I reckon it emanated out of the UK Rugby League Super League. They have a thing called Magic Round. They've had it for ages. And then the NRL started the experiment here in Australia a couple of years ago up in Brisbane. They call it Magic Round up there. It's fantastic. They play every game at Suncorp Stadium. It's like a festival of rugby league. So AFL this year thought, we'll do the same. We'll call it Gather Round. I love the name. It's a really easy, really stands out. And they went down to Adelaide, and Adelaide's like an AFL-centric town like Perth is and Melbourne is as well. And it's worked, like big crowds at Adelaide Oval for the first 2 nights. I think 6 of the 9 games are at Adelaide Oval, and then the other 3, because of time slot crossovers, there at suburban grounds in Adelaide because they've got such a rich history. It's a really good idea. It's one that's going to sing. I reckon Piney Super Rugby have one down in Melbourne.
Yes, they do.
Mistaken.
They do. Yes, yep. Correct. Yep.
And we've talked about this before with the A-League. I honestly believe that instead of selling the grand final, they should have sold the concept of having every game in Sydney one weekend during the January school holidays. But that ship has sailed for now, hasn't it? So, it's a really successful idea, and I think everyone's got right behind it in the AFL industry. Fantastic.
Let's go to football and the Matildas, your women's team, less than 100 days now from the FIFA Women's World Cup that your country and ours will co-host at Brentford Community Stadium during the week. Not Wembley or one of the biggest stadiums, but the 14,500 capacity Brentford Community Stadium. This is a significant result. Australia beating England 2-0. Just how significant is this?
Yeah, big. Massive. In a way, it had to happen for the Matildas after they dropped that game to Scotland last week. And this proves that they can actually contend. And this has been the knock on this team for the last 4 or 5 years against the big European teams. What can they do? And results have been almost non-existent against the big European teams. Now, of late, they've beaten Spain, but they're vastly under strength. But to go to England, who I view as, if they're not favourites for the World Cup, they're very close to it. The 30-game winning streak or unbeaten streak, and they got undone by a very good Matilda's performance. Obviously, Sam Kerr up top helps. She didn't play against Scotland. So, yeah, massive win and gives them all kinds of confidence going into the World Cup, which, granted, is a couple months away, and there's a lot to happen there with club football before then, but big win.
Yeah, well, can I say, there's probably more optimism on your side of the Tasman than there is on ours ahead of this Women's World Cup. But who knows, maybe in the 90-odd days that Jitka Klimkova and the Football Ferns have left, they might turn things around, but we'll remain to be convinced on that.
What happened with them through the week?
They were beaten 3-0 by Nigeria, who are also coming to the World Cup, but are ranked, and for what the FIFA rankings are worth, ranked lower than New Zealand. But again, it was just another pretty tough watch, unfortunately. But yeah, we'll see what can be turned around in the next couple of 3 months or so. Just before you go, Josh Giddey, Oklahoma City Thunder. This young Australian kid, he'd be lucky if he was 21. He's really capturing headlines.
Yeah, he's still 20, so he can't legally walk into an establishment in the US and buy a beer, but far out. It was his first play. They've got this thing called the play-in, so like not teams who didn't automatically qualify for the playoffs. They had this little knockout scenario in Oklahoma City. They've got a very young team, and they've got draft picks for fun in the next 5 years, so they're going to get better and better. And this guy, Josh Giddey, the way he plays, and he can score but also facilitate, and some of his passing, my son who watches a lot of NBA says he's easily the best passer in the NBA, and he's 20. So I think Australian basketball has got itself a king for the next decade. And there were a lot of hopes for him. He went top 10 in the draft, but he could be one of the elite players in the NBA, not just in terms of where he's from and, he's standing in the pecking order in Australian basketball, but one of the actual elite players in the NBA. And he's so good to watch because he can score and he can help teammates be better as well. And that's the footprint of Australian basketball. It's great to see him doing good things. And he's playing about now, actually, in the second play-in match that they got to beat. I think it's Minnesota they got to beat to get into the playoffs. But there's much more to come from Josh Giddey.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing how he goes this afternoon, against the Timberwolves in that West play-in game. And we'll follow the career of Josh Giddey with some interest. Great stuff, Adam. Always good to catch up on sporting matters on your side of the Tasman. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll do it again next Saturday.
You too, Piney. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate. That's Adam Peacock from codesports.com.au.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.
Hello, I'm Liam Dan, Business Editor-at-Large for the New Zealand Herald, and I'm back with another season of my podcast, Money Talks. In this series, we're not going to tell you how to get rich. We're not going to try and pick the next interest rate move. Instead, I'll be talking to some interesting New Zealanders about how money has shaped their lives and what they've learned about it through the years. Join us every Saturday for a new chat with an exciting range of guests from the world of business, politics and entertainment. You can find Money Talks with me, Liam Dan, wherever you get your podcasts.